Thanks, Lane. For those that don't know, I'm McAtee, the Program Quality Manager for Transmission and our Hybrid Systems in our C8. Earlier in the talk, Lane gave a great overview of the auxiliary filter service intervals. And one of the biggest questions we've been getting around this space is for do-it-yourselfers that are doing their own auxiliary filter services, do they need to perform the hydraulic system flush procedure that is in the service documents? And the answer to that is no, is not required. And in fact, recently we just came out with an update to the service procedures to remove that flush procedure. So our dealers are no longer performing them and reducing the service costs for you guys for those auxiliary filter changes. So in fact, when you are driving your car, you are filtering fluid through that auxiliary filter, through the solenoids and valve bodies, and actually moving debris, excess debris that may be in the car into that filter where it's supposed to be. So just by the act of driving your car, you are filtering the debris out of the system. So for those do-it-yourselfers that are still looking for that extra peace of mind when they're servicing their auxiliary filter and want to perform the flush procedure, but don't necessarily want to spend all the money on the expensive service tools in order to do it, we have implemented a feature that is in model year 25 plus Corvettes that allows you to run that procedure with a little handshake inside the vehicle without connecting any service tools at all. It's a semi-complicated sequence to get into the procedure, so we have an actual service document that outlines step-by-step what you need to do when you get into your car to initiate the procedure and make sure it runs all the way through. I can give you a kind of a run-by-run, step-by-step how to get into it right now, just standing there. And then if anybody has any questions after the fact, I've got a couple on-hand service documents that step-by-step have the procedure as well for anybody that wants to take a look. So to start, you'll need to make sure your transmission is warm because the car is running. To initiate the procedure, you have to be above 143 Fahrenheit or 63 Celsius for the procedure to initiate. You'll start out in park. You will turn on your electronic parking brake. You'll then put the car into neutral while holding your foot on the brake pedal. You'll hold the brake pedal for the entirety of the procedure. And then to initiate, you'll pull both paddles in. Release the upshift paddle 3 times, and on the third pull, you'll hold the upshift paddle. And then on that third paddle hold, engine RPMs will jump up to 2,000 RPMs. And at that point in time, you are in the fluid filtering procedure. Fluid filtering procedure will then run until the fluid filtering process is complete, or you left your foot off the brake pedal. So you hold your foot on the brake for the entirety of that procedure. Timing can vary for how long it will last, typically around 7 to 8 minutes. And then at that point in time, engine speed will drop from 2,000 RPMs back down to normal idle RPMs. And you can either shift the drive into park, or shift the car into park, or shift the car into drive and drive away. At that point in time, the procedure will be done, and you can proceed with your auxiliary filter repair, or whatever you're working on at the time. So it's a great feature. We have some cars out in the parking lot that we can show you a demo. One trick is you got to heat up the transmission, which takes a little bit of time unless you drive it. And then so another thing you'll want to account for is you do not want to do this on an overloaded auxiliary filter, so if it's well beyond the service interval, either 7,500 or 22,500, you don't want to risk flushing any overloaded filter debris into the transmission. If you're staying in line with your service, you're more than welcome to It's also not something you should be doing frequently. It's something you should do that coincides with a repair or a standard service that you can do with your car. So, happy to bring that for the do-it-yourselfers that like to run those procedures and lower the costs or the availability of how to actually 25 plus for these. Either 25, 26, or 27.
All right. Great piece of information. I'm glad you mentioned cost. I forgot to mention the cost on the transmission filter. So after the Chevy covers your first one, and you go to get that next one done, if you're not a do-it-yourselfer, I have heard that dealerships charge you some pretty absorbent amounts for just putting a filter in. So I advise you to shop around.